G'day there folks, I'm Beanie, you're watching Beanie Draws, and as you can tell by this bunch of little rough stick figures, you can probably guess what's about to happen. Godzilla versus King Kong. I want to do a little MechaGodzilla as well at some point, but for now, let's just keep it to Godzilla versus Kong and see what we can do from there. So I'm going to start putting in Kong first, because Kong is going to be the tallest one. He's going to be highest up. So let's do a stick figure of Kong in there. And we're going to figure out... I did like the placement of the arms. So I'm going to do that again. Going to put in the not stick. We're putting in his little battle axe thing with the... Interestingly enough, if you're watching this now, obviously this is going to have a spoiler, but I thought that this spine on the axe was Godzilla's spine, but it turns out it wasn't, which means there are more Godzillas out there. Unless, of course, that's where Godzilla just kind of happens to live and he just sheds his spines. But it's just interesting that there's an axe that just fits in with an axe format, which means there's bound to be more Godzillas, apparently. Who knows how that works? They left a lot of that movie up in the air. For now, I am just going to draw my little King Kong. I prefer to start from left to right. If I start here, obviously, when I go like here, I'm going to be covering up the artwork, but I want to see how tall Kong will be. How tall are we going to have his leg when it's jumping? So we're kind of having him swinging it, and we'll have Godzilla around here. We'll rough in the body. You won't really see it much, but for now, maybe Godzilla is actually looking up there towards Kong, and Godzilla's getting ready to do his atomic breath. So I think we'll have his leg up, and we'll do a cartoon style leg, giving it a bit of a flat bottom, and then Godzilla's leg is coming up, getting ready to do a atomic breath. Might make his body a little bit more like that. I did like how I originally had his arms, so I'll do the same stick figure style starting. Like that. Another stick figure arm, and then we'll work out the other bits. Let's put in the tail. And we'll have the spiky bits. This is gonna be refined later. So far I'm liking the placement. Maybe make his head a little bit higher up. So we'll erase this part. This is the stick figure portion, so you are allowed to erase. It'd be awful if you weren't allowed to erase a rough stick figure section, wouldn't it? So I want to do a little bit more with King Kong. I like his torso. We'll refine his foot a little bit more. And I think we'll do sprawled out toes like that. We're going to have the hands out like so. And like that. So you can see here, I'm trying to get some of the knuckles showing up so it's a little bit more three-dimensional. And I'm thinking I'm going to add some fluff in around there as well. So now I need to think what I'm going to do for the expression of Kong's face. But while we're working out the expression of Kong's face, let's just refine out this axe. What are we going to do? We're going to have him like roaring out. So like, roar! Actually, maybe because they're roaring out, maybe Godzilla will also have a bit of an angry eye looking up at him. Because he's, you know, he's about to get beaten up in the face. Actually, at this point, this is when he's already glowing stuff, so we should probably have... no, we're not going to have the glow coming out. Maybe we'll have the glow. We'll have a indication that there's going to be a glow. So just some very loose, rough lines like that. I like to just give a very, very sketchy stick figure impression of what's going to happen. I can see in my head what's going to happen. You can't. But with practice, you will start being able to see things before they are there. Kong has a bit of a beard, so we'll add some beard elements and give him a nose. Kind of want to have his face leaning back. This is where I get very particular about my expressions and laying out things, and that's one of the tricky parts in animation as well. I always think in an animation standpoint, and it is the slightest movements and the slightest changes, like in eyebrows and where the head is tilted and, you know, the position of cheeks and all that. All those very fine details can be the difference between an angry face, a neutral face, and a shocked face. So I try to keep that in mind when I am trying to draw my little illustrations. That is a tip for you. Ah, he's about to whack him. He had big, yeah, he had sort of big tooths. Tooths, however you want to pronounce it. I pronounce it incorrectly. So I'm kind of liking this a bit better. So who has actually watched Kong vs. Godzilla, Godzilla vs. Kong? Who's watched it yet? By the time this video has been uploaded, I would assume that most people have in some level or another. And if you have watched it by now, they did say that there would be a clear winner, but we all know there wasn't a clear winner. Spoilers, because no, there was a clear winner, the franchise. So I am liking how this is going now. This is the point where I start trying to work in a little bit of extra detail in Godzilla's body. Actually, this is a tip for erasing. We've got some very heavy lines now, and some erasers aren't particularly good. They will spread your lines everywhere. So one thing I was taught in art school was to use a kneadable eraser. It looks like blue tack or whatever they call this kind of stuff in your particular country, but this is called a kneadable eraser. And what you do is you get your kneadable eraser, preferably flat, and you just tap down, and eventually it'll get lighter. I find the best way to get it working a little bit better is to slightly roll, and that way it picks up the lead, and you'll see it's all dark, and then you just knead it and you keep going. And that's a better way of lightening your lines. Might actually be able to... Oh yeah, there you go. Once it's flat, you can also start dragging it along, and you're less likely to leave lines all over the place and smudges. Ooh, you can really take off some lines then. So kneadable erasers, you can flatten them and tap to get the first layers off, and then once you've got the heavy layers, you can start just wiping off more lead, and you can barely see it now, can you? Let's start refining it a bit. And obviously because this is a cartoon, I'm not going to go for much detail. So we've got a leg coming up. We can try and give Godzilla a little bit more of a, you know, the Godzilla frowny face. This is kind of cute. It went a little bit cuter than I was planning on it, but hey, we can deal with that. So we will give Godzilla some of the side gills, I guess you'd call them. Drawing hands can be quite tricky. I should do a tutorial, I probably will, on how to kind of do different styles of Godzilla hands, and like, you know, thin fingers, long fingers, short fingers, stubbly fingers, all that kind of stuff. So I'll try to remember to do that. So Godzilla does have some kind of... I don't want to make it too detailed though. I don't want to make it too... I want it to be cartoony, but I don't want it to be too, you know... Okay, so we've got some of the leg. Don't forget your leg folds. Your leg folds help make your cartoon look a little bit more animated. I did want to give him a little bit of a thigh bulge around there. Indicates a little bit of muscle. Not really sure how Godzilla's foot looks from underneath, so let's just go with some a big, flat, broad style of underfooting. And it seems I made, I kind of don't want it to be too broad at the bottom, but I want it to be sort of broad. There's so many different styles that you can do a Godzilla foot. So many different styles. You can have it like a broad bottom of the foot, you can have a wide bottom, and all these different styles, in my opinion, are valid, but it just, there's all different styles that you can draw them. Even before all the Godzilla movies were coming out, I would still say, like, you know, the traditional style of Godzilla, rubber suit Godzilla, drawn with all different styles of feet, and, you know, you can make him super fat, you can make him tall, you can make him all different styles. Now, I do want the tail to be a little bit chunky, so his tail is looking too chunky down the bottom. We want the tail to at least line up with the bottom of the foot. And you can make as many lines as you want to adjust your line. You don't have to get your line perfect on the first go. Lord knows I never do. So we will add some of the segmented lines, I guess you'd call them. Strangely enough, Godzilla actually has quite a long tail, but I'm not going to draw a cartoon Godzilla with a long tail. I do want to add a few little lines that give the brief indication of scales. And you will see a lot of cartoonists do this, especially for cartoon styles. If you want to do like an indication of scales and you don't want to completely fill the whole creature, whatever you're drawing with scales, you can just do like a little line, a little line, a little line. And that helps, you know, add a little bit of texture. And then it's up to you how far you go with it. A little bit more there, some fold lines to help indicate the crinkles. I do want to bend his foot in a little bit more. I do want to bring his toe further in with the baseline of his foot. I have been studying Godzilla's feet, and they're very complicated. Very strange to draw, I will say. And Godzilla's feet seem to change from Godzilla 2014, whatever year that one came out, and then Godzilla King of the Monsters. Very different feet style, interestingly enough. Okay, so I want to add in some spikes. And realistically, I don't want to go too heavy on these lines, because I will eventually be wanting to erase these when I ink it. So we just add some squiggly lines. So I was going to have it coming up around that line, if you can even see it. But I don't want to do that, so I don't actually have to go. I can use these original lines and just kind of readjust my plan as I go along. And I think do up to there. The good thing about cartoon Godzilla is it doesn't have to be accurate. So if it doesn't look how it's meant to look, it's just an interpretation of Godzilla. And that's one of the big reasons why I love drawing cartoons. Not to be overly kid-friendly or anything, I just love the artistic interpretation and expression. You can just do whatever you want to do. There's a much bigger discussion you can have around the accuracy of raptors especially. You know, if a dinosaur's too fat or if a dinosaur's too thin, you know, based on skeletal structures, there is a certain way to draw dinosaurs, especially Spinosaurus now. But with cartoons, you can do as crazily inaccurate or as crazily accurate as you want to go. The beauty of cartoons is you don't have to be restrained to accuracy, and I'm just putting a line here. This line is going to be colored in. We're just putting in a brief line here that's going to be all colored in soon, but that gives you the multiple layers, because there's like, what, 3 rows of Godzilla spine, so I'm adding these lines in and that will be colored in later. So I'm quite happy with how that Godzilla is looking. Let us do King Kong. Now, would you call this a chibi style? Because I didn't really even know chibi was a thing until more recent years. I just saw these styles as cartoon. Maybe chibi has bigger eyes. I have to do more research, because anime and chibi and all that kind of stuff is something I want to sort of explore a bit more. But I think I have to study the styles a little bit more before I really can go into it. I like doing it my own way. And I guess you could call it chibi, but I think chibi has much bigger eyes. So if I call this a chibi style, that could technically be clickbait, but hey, who knows. And while I'm drawing this part, I will do a little bit of a spoiler, but by this point you've probably already seen the movie, so probably not that much of a spoiler now. It's not story driven so much as when King Kong is going to the underworld or middle world or whatever you call it. I love the fact that he's swinging. Have we ever actually seen King Kong swing through the... Well, I haven't watched Kong Island, so maybe he has, but I have never seen that, so that was cool. Giving a bit of... I don't want to lose actually the part that I had, so hopefully I haven't lost too much of the detail. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Kind of want to give his hair so it looks like he's sort of flying through the air. So make the fur kind of going up. Ooh, and just based on where his elbows are, I can just kind of tell that technically speaking, his arms would be all kinds of dislocated. Possibly, I don't know. Actually, no, it's probably alright. And then I just add little flecks of line to get that fur. Fur is actually quite easy to draw in this style. You just add little spikes. We want to draw in this part, the stick. Yeah, here's some more spoiler stuff. But there was a lot about how things worked in that movie I didn't understand. Like, did they specifically craft a indentation into the floor? And by they, I mean King Kong's people? Godzilla's people? I don't know how it worked. Did they craft a indentation into the wall, or into the floor I should say, that would somehow generate power from a spine from Godzilla? How does that work? And it seems like if Kong's, did Kong create that key generator? What would you call it? An ignition switch. Did they create this ignition switch, or I don't know. That was all a bit convoluted, that part. And apparently skulls have memory and DNA to... Yeah, that whole, I mean, it was awesome. I didn't understand it, but it was awesome. But the whole MechaGodzilla, I didn't understand how they powered that. I was wondering before the even movies, like, came out, I'm like, how are they gonna do that? Like, how are you gonna power and control the arms and limbs of a humongous thing? I'll have to talk about this when I draw a MechaGodzilla. We'll talk about that later. And now we are going to ink. I'm not really going to go into too much detail about the inking process. It's better to put your hand on a bit of paper when inking, otherwise you're going to get smudges everywhere. So far, so good. 0.1mm uni pins are better for small detail, but for something like this, I think a 0.2 or a 0.3 is better. Uni pin pens, if you want some of these, I think I have a link down, which will be an affiliate link. In Australia, you can get them everywhere. They're easy to find. I've been using these for like well over 10 years, and inexpensive, they do the job well. That's right. Yeah, I'm meant to be talking through this. I'm not very good at drawing Godzilla feet, so you have to bear with me. But again, it's a cartoon, so it doesn't matter if the feet aren't fantastic. Let's draw some little circles around his knees. One of the things I love about drawing with ink, even though it's time consuming, is you get to have absolute control over the tapering of your lines. And it's the tapering that I absolutely love. And inking, shame my hands aren't very steady. Not sure if I'm able to do spikes. Looks like I am doing the little toenails underneath Godzilla's foot, but again, you know, it's a cartoon, doesn't have to be exact, doesn't have to be perfect. And you can see that I've changed the camera angle here, and that is because it's usually a good idea, if you want to get easier curves in your lines, is to make sure that you're drawing to the curve of your wrist. That is one of the tricks that I was taught in school. So if you want to make it easier for yourself to draw curved lines, draw with the curve. Maybe we'll do some little dots like this. And I suppose I can just add in some little things like that. That's how his spine looks anyway. And that helps spread out the mistake a little bit. But as Bob Ross says, we don't make mistakes, we just make happy accidents. So that's Godzilla done. Now let's do Kong. I want to add some dynamic lighting. Considering the light's probably going to be coming from Godzilla, it's probably not that bad of an idea to have a little bit of shadow coming from here. In which case, I'll add a bit of shadow under the wrist of this arm, even though it's all blurry. Thanks for that autofocus. Actually, I can probably add some darkness there. And I suppose add a bit of shadow to the back of his head. Add some things to the wood. I don't even know if there was any rope holding on the spike, the club. And so it doesn't look like he's floating. I'm going to put in some action lines. Maybe a few little lines there. Should we add a shadow? Looks like I am. It kind of looks like he's coming out of the ground. Maybe we will make him come out of the ground. Seriously don't understand how he can travel thousands of... I guess it was the opposite gravity or whatever they call it. But there you have it. I've taken it from those little sketches and then evolved those ones to get to this point. So if you like this video and you think it was worth subscribing for, be sure to hit the bell notification and all that fun stuff. But if you're interested in more cartoon monster action like this, I've got a Jurassic Park T-Rex vs Indominus Rex cartoon. I've actually got two of them. So click on those videos. Otherwise, this one will be coming soon enough, so subscribe for that, and I'll see you in my next video. Cheerio for now.